What's up, everybody? I'm Camarray.
And I'm Zaiah. And this is the Music Report Card, where albums are reviewed based on the vocals, the lyrics,
the production, and the sonic vibe.
Alright, so today we're going to be reviewing Tory Lanez.
Woo-wee. I hope the people don't come for us. But his new album, Daystar, surprise album, is out. It's out now, baby.
But first, let's talk about the news. So, Mariah Carey released her personal memoir entitled The Meaning of Mariah Carey. She also did a sit down with Oprah to talk a little bit about it. I am excited to, I don't know that I'm actually going to read it. Okay. I probably will actually take the time to look into that just because I feel like I have some similar, situations as her. She talks about some childhood trauma, some
issues with
her, her siblings, some sibling rivalry and stuff like that, and I have a little bit of that in my family as well. Also, a lot about just the just being biracial and everything that comes along with that, and colorism within your own family, within your community, all of that.
Yeah.
So I loved it that in the interview with Oprah, though, that Oprah, talked about a lot of people they look at other people and they say, well, what's wrong with them and what's going on with them and blah, blah, instead of asking the real question, which is what happened to them? Like, what did they go through? We all have some type of trauma, and we are all acting, some of the ways that we're acting, not even know why we're acting the ways, but it's a result of our past and the trauma that we carry with us.
I think it's also really brave for Mariah to have touched on and shed some light on her relationship and her marriage to Tommy Mottola, as well as Nick Cannon, but I really thought it was interesting how she was this major pop star. And she talked about on the interview with Oprah where she went to some part of New York and didn't even know that she had fans because she was so locked down and kept in the studio and not allowed to tour, which in today's time, most artists make their living off touring, but she was such a major artist as far as recording. They kept her in the studio those first couple of years and just kept her pumping out albums, and she didn't even know she had a major fan base. And I just think that's so interesting. Such an interesting life to live, to where you are one of the biggest artists of the time and becoming one of the biggest artists of all time, and you don't even really know it. That's just a weird experience that I could never imagine. And then she also talks about how she couldn't even make moves without security guards, being right there, couldn't even go to get French fries. And it's just wow, what a stifling relationship to be in. And again, you're one of the biggest artists and you can't even move around freely if you wanted to because you're in a marriage where it's, I don't know, just where he had a hold on her.
It's overpowered by
his
success and everything that he has going on, and he is, like she said, at the top of the food chain for that industry. So, a lot of people fear people in powerful positions. So
and then not even realizing, like she mentioned in the interview with Oprah, that she's paying for half of the stuff anyway. This is half my money, going into this big house and this big.
Forgot that she was
that one
rich.
AF. Yeah, but again, I'm sure it's going to be an incredible read. I can't wait to get my hands on the book. But just the stories that she told on Oprah were very, very fascinating, and it's just, again, amazing to see the life behind the diva, if you will. I just love Mariah, and I love all of her antics and all of that. So, again, I hope it's a good read. I hope you guys pick it up. The Meaning of Mariah Carey is out and available now.
So we also need to talk a little bit about Zaiah Banks.
Yeah, Zaiah Banks. Woo. A story just broke that she is actually being sued by her former manager, who basically said that her first album, sold wood. And honestly, outside of some of her antics, I never even knew that she did music. I never knew she had an album drop. So I could see how her album wouldn't have sold anything. But Zaiah is saying she sold and streamed all of these millions of records and she hadn't been paid for anything, and basically stuck her fans, or sick them, is that what you say to a dog? Sick them, get them. Her fans.
Her fans to go after him.
To go after him.
Yeah, she's showing up at his house, taking pictures, posting pictures outside of his house, but has also threatened him and his wife and family. So
and telling the fans that she's threatening to tell her fans where he lives. So basically, he's filing suit for civil extortion, defamation of character, invasion of privacy, as well as stalking. And again, with some of her antics in the past, it's kind of easy to believe that she would be the type of chick to kind of go through that. And I think she's mentioned that he only paid her like $15,000 for the record that she did put out. So it's gonna get nasty, and I'm sure we'll hear much more about this story in the future. But until then, let's go ahead and get into our review for Tory Lanez's new album, Daystar.
All right, so I'm gonna start with my first song. Well, let me not talk about the song just yet. So I'm gonna start with talking about the album overall. So overall, I think the album is great. I think that it's amazing how someone can take their story and share their story and do it so quickly and write so creatively and pull all these different things in. However, the redundancy of talking about the situation on every single song wore me thin.
Yeah, and I think I'm right along there with you with as far as the redundancy, but then I also feel like it's hard to. There's always two sides. Well, there's always three sides to the story, as people say. And we've heard Megan's side. We've kind of now heard his side. But it's almost hard to judge this album because you know that no matter what the truth is, the other side is, there's still someone that's hurting on the other side.
Absolutely.
So how do you judge this album when there's pain on the other side? And I feel like that was the biggest thing for me listening is after all of this time, and I'm listening to these lyrics and he's flowing and he's making all of these metaphors and he's, weaving this whole story together. At the end of the day, he wasn't the one that was in the hospital with bullet shots in their foot. You know what I'm saying? So that for me was definitely a hard thing to get through while listening to this album. And trying to give a grade on it, but we did it, so let's go ahead and talk about it. What was your favorite song?
So my favorite song, I would say, well, one of my favorites, it probably is arguably my favorite, is A Woman.
Yeah.
I love A Woman because of his modern vocals going over, I say modern, but modern as in what we've been hearing, this auto-tune-ish effect, which he'll tell you that there is no auto-tune, but it's there.
Yeah.
And just having those modern vocals over top of something that's a little bit more nostalgic and a little bit more, from back in the day. Yeah. So it reminds me of When a Woman Loves by R. Kelly.
I felt R. Kelly. That is that song. I don't know if it was. It just had an R. Kelly vibe. I don't know.
Well,
if it was that song
it's that, but then it also reminds me of James Brown. This Is a Man's World.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that same, but that's really what I felt when I listened to R. Kelly's song. That's what I kind of felt for. I felt the same feeling of this is a man's world.
Yeah.
That R. Kelly's doing. He's doing the same. The showmanship.
Yeah.
Was exactly the same. So.
Yeah, and I listed A Woman as one of my favorites. It just kind of had that slow burn, kind of old school groove, and like you mentioned auto-tune. I wasn't sure because I'm not like a huge Tory Lanez fan, so I just know all about him and really can tell his voice and what he's doing. But it was like some of the the choices that he was making. I was like, I know this Negro is not up here hitting these notes and stuff with no help. Like, it was very apparent that, in my opinion, that he had some help in there somewhere. With that being said, I feel like what he delivered on A Woman vocally was very strong. I felt like, it was very solid vocally, and I love the groove of the song, and I just felt like it was a solid song.
I still love the lyrics of the song because it's just talking about, well, how can a woman or the situation that goes so sour, and I think we've all probably had those situations where we just love and adore someone so much and we never see that coming and we get sideswiped with something that makes it all go sour. And how can I sit here just feeling sick and just feeling like jacked up over a woman?
Yeah. Yeah, and I really definitely felt some going back to his vocal. when he was like almost screaming out like, "My heart is cold," I felt that thing. Like,
Absolutely.
And there's a couple other songs. One of them I'll mention as another favorite. But again, the way I think that we all connect musically is when you can feel someone, and whether the pitch and all of the different technical terms are right and spot on. I mean, I think above all, making someone feel something and connecting that in that way definitely takes the cake. And one line that I felt was kind of interesting, I felt it was very interesting, was he said something to the effect of, "I know them other people don't want me with you, but they don't give you D, plus I'm richer." Mm-hmm. And so I was like, "Ooh." I never throughout this whole time, I never thought that Meg and Tory were having sex. But then I was like, when you say something like, as a man, like, he don't give you D, like, that ain't just like we just did it one time. Like, that's
right.
Like on a consistent basis, that when you say something like that, you're not just insinuating that I had sex with you one time. Like, that's like some major stuff. So I felt very, I don't know. I just felt it was an interesting line for him to really put out there, because he didn't have to touch on that in the song to get out his story.
Right. But the reason that you know that he's possibly referring to Meg is that there's also a lyric talking about how he was rolling through H-Town and seeing this chick and blah, blah, and she was all this and blah, blah. So you kind of know that that's who he's referring to. But I love how the beat also switched up in the song. Yes. And then at the end it breaks down and he's doing these breathy falsetto ad-libs, and they're just kind of pushed back into the back. I love when he does that type of stuff on a lot of it. He does it on a lot of his songs, but I love that he's like doing all this whining, crying, but also almost praise and worship music happening in the background over this track. So yeah, and I don't think that, just to speak on what you said earlier, I don't think that he's not hitting some of the notes. I think he's hitting some of these notes, but I think the auto-tune is probably helping with correcting some of those notes. Okay. But I don't think it's
so he has a little range.
Oh yeah, he still has range. Listen to how high he is when he's rapping.
They do say that when you talk.
He has a higher voice. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the next song. What do you have as your next favorite song?
So my next favorite was Queen and Slim, which I'm sure you remember. The movie. Have you seen the movie?
I've never seen the movie.
Okay, I haven't seen the movie either, but watching the trailer, I can kind of get what I need from it, and I understand how it ties into the song. I think that it was just dope how he made it sing-songy. He put this Snuggie and Lovely, Fendi, and I need you like a dealer needs his druggie. Like, he just kept putting E on the end of everything, this E phrase on the end of it. So I don't know, but I like the flow of it, the melody of it on top of the track was actually really dope. Yeah. And then I also like how, if you look at the film Queen and Slim, or even just the trailer, you can get the idea. But I love how it's similar to his situation. He's talking in the song about, like, I wasn't expecting, like, though things kind of went like south. Like, you still are the queen. You still are the one. I wasn't expecting this to happen how it happened, or things to end how they ended. And it's the same situation with the Queen and Slim. Like, they got pulled over by a cop. The cop got a little bit too out of hand, and he ended up killing a cop. And then now he's on the run, and they're still like this. But she got pulled into a situation, and they weren't even, like, really official based on kind of what I've seen from the trailer. He also mentions in the song, like, though I had a crush on Kylie, and I left with Kylie and moved on, like, that evening, I guess, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But though I moved, like, not made a move on Kylie, but kind of had a crush on her, and he was feeling her, it still doesn't negate the fact that you are who you are, and you still the queen, and we like Queen and Slim. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was that song. I can't remember. There were so many songs on the album. But on one of the songs, towards the end, I know he mentioned, to your point, that although all of this stuff has happened and he feels that she has, I guess, told her own side of the story and kind of changed the story a little bit, and there's been all these memes and different things that have gone on over the past couple of months. He basically says, I would give all of that up, and I would forgive you if I could get my queen back,
absolutely,
so to speak. And I think that's that's heavy. Like,
absolutely.
Because again, you think about all of the stories and all of the back and forth that has been going on over the last couple of months, and for him to own up and say, after all of that, like, I was feeling you that hard through Kylie and all of that, and I would give it all up, and just to have my friend back, almost that's deep.
It's deep, but I love how he chose to do this particular song, because the sing rap part, the snuggie, I like that was just so different from what we would expect from him. And I also like that he didn't fully, he focused on the situation still, but he focused on, you was just my homie, you was my this, you was my that, you was my writer. Then he goes into this rap where his vocals on the rap are dope, and he goes into the rap, and then he talks about the situation a little deeper, and goes into that. And then, this is actually the song I mentioned that what I loved about A Woman is that the pushback vocals, but they weren't pushed back on that particular song. They were very crisp and clear when he was in his falsetto and that airiness. This is actually where he ended at the end, and he was doing the pushback vocals and pretty much saying what you were saying.
Yeah.
But they're just real pushback, and you hear him kind of praise and worship in the background. Can't really hear every little word he's saying, but you feel
it,
that there's passion behind what he's saying. But moving on, what's your second favorite?
All right, so Sorry I Had To is I hate to say it's one of my favorites, but I'm gonna put it out there like this. I feel like this situation was definitely between Meg and Tory. So I feel like anybody else that came into the line of fire and had anything to say is fair game to be spoke about.
Act up, you could get smacked up.
Yeah,
snatched up.
And I know
I've
told you that one of my beliefs is you can't slap somebody, push somebody, whatever the case is, and then tell them how to react back to you. So if I slap you, you can't tell, or if you slap me, you can't tell me not to punch you because you've inflicted the pain first. And so there have been, of course, numerous people that have had a lot to say about the situation without hearing his side. And he ate them. Oh
yeah, he gave a Nicki Minaj. What's that song?
Yes, sir.
What's the song where she went ham on everybody?
On everybody.
Dreams. Barbie Dreams.
Yeah, my God. So he starts out, I can't even talk about all the lyrics, but the one that stood out the most is when he talks about Masika and how she's always in the shade room comments and how she had the issue a couple of weeks ago. But then I felt it was very, 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 very
What was
bold.
the issue a couple of weeks ago?
She had...
With the rent thing?
No, I want to say...
Rent?
No, I want to say she had... faked being like abducted or something crazy like that.
Oh, okay.
For it was trying to tie it to a movie or some kind of role or something like that, and then she ended up getting dropped from the role, and it was some kind of craziness like that.
Oh wow!
But it was very, very bold for Tory to mention that lady's daughter, and he said her name. He was like, if this is what you think is acceptable, basically, then like Kari is like, basically like your daughter. Like, you better off taking your daughter to, like... I don't remember the exact line, but he mentioned that lady's daughter in the song. And that was a bold move. And Masika is definitely the type... If y'all saw the... what's the show on... I forgot. There's a show where, like, people sit down face-to-face with their rivals. She sat down with Hazel E. Mm-hmm. And the issue that her and Hazel E had was that she mentioned her daughter. And I was like, oh, my God. This man to mention this lady's daughter in this song. And... yeah, but anyway, I mean, he talks to everybody from J.R. Smith and said something to the effect of, you the last one to talk about making shots, like, bars, like, and then he mentioned JoJo, and he mentioned JoJo a couple of times throughout the album.
Yeah, he did.
But talking about, like, basically, you taking me off an album that nobody cares about, like, that shit is so disrespectful, like, and I love JoJo.
More so, I think he was saying, yeah, you took me off of the deluxe version. The actual version that you didn't take me off of was the original, and that's the one that actually was doing the numbers. Or if you look at it, I actually brought you the numbers on that, and that's why you didn't pull me off of that one.
Yeah.
But you try to act like you were doing something because you pulled me out of the re-release deluxe that actually didn't even matter at that point.
Yes.
I had already given you the numbers that you needed from being on the track with you from the original album.
Yeah. We also talked about Asian Doll and how he had never seen her on Billboard. But yeah, he talked about Chance the Rapper and basically called him irrelevant, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because Chance is doing a lot in the community. And I mean, he's got the new song with Justin Bieber, and he's done numbers in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe even bigger numbers than Tory if we look at the facts.
I wouldn't say maybe. I would just go ahead and say it.
Yeah. All right, but I mean, again, talking about legends, even Bun B could get it. Like anybody could get it, and I just feel like that's such a bold move. But golly, he ate them alive in a rapper's rapping type of way. Like he just held no punches. Like everybody was able to get it, and I love that from a hip hop fan standpoint that he didn't hold back on what he had to say as far as everyone that had something to say about the situation. And like he said in the song, he hasn't been convicted, so shut y'all asses up. And he mentioned that a lot of times, and I don't know if I guess we'll talk about this now since I'm right here. He has not been convicted, and I think that it's very interesting that throughout the 17, 18, 19, however many songs, he dealt with the situation, but he never really talked about if he shot her and what really happened. He gave like a roundabout about what happened, and he gave how he was feeling about her, and he talked about the people around the situation, saying Kellen, which is her hairdresser, and Kylie, and all of that. But I really didn't get a grasp as to if he shot her for real, and what really happened. He alludes to all this stuff, talking about your team kind of switched the story around on us and all of that, but we really never get that type of answer to say what really happened. So that's another downfall that I have on the album. We'll talk about that with the Sonic Flow.
All right, so my next one is Things I Should Have Said.
Okay.
Things I Should Have Said. I like the song. I think in the past couple of years, people have really gotten into the Afro style music, and it just has the Afro beat, Drake one dance type feel to it. But he's swagging over the track and pretty much saying like, I think I missed my opportunity or I missed my chance, so let me just get one last dance. Yeah. But he's also saying like, don't act like I'm not over here hurting and sad about the situation, and I'm not jacked up over what's happening as well. So. Yeah. But it's just a good feeling song. Yeah,
and I think that he did a pretty decent job of turning such a bad experience into a listenable album. I mean, again, like we mentioned in the beginning, kind of hard to laugh at someone's pain, if you will. But, I mean, the songs were relatively good. I mean, if you look at them as a whole,
absolutely,
they were definitely pretty good. So I have to give him that accolade, if you will. We'll get ate up in the comments like he's a fucking almost a killer. Like,
no, I think that we have to be realistic to how we feel about the situation.
Yeah. And
I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's talk about your third.
My third was Solar Drive at Night, and I don't have a whole lot to say except for I just love the feel, and I love, and not even I love, but I feel like it's very reminiscent of vocally almost in a way Chris Brown, but definitely. I just felt when I was listening to that song, I felt very much how I felt with Chris after the Rihanna situation. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like he's understood that he's kind of messed up in a way, and he just wants, his woman back, and he's just kind of begging and pleading.
Or he's giving peace vibes.
Yeah.
What if I can never give you peace?
What if I can never give you peace, baby? But yeah, I think it's very just admirable when you have men that are not too proud to say I messed up and I want another chance. And it's up to the woman ultimately, that has been wronged in whatever way to decide if she wants to go back. But again, I just think it's admirable for him to kind of cry out and kind of just give this amazing vocal that he did on the song. And I don't know, it's just it's a good feeling song, and that's my last favorite. I did enjoy a couple of other songs. but I don't want to give him too much love because, you know, I still feel a little way about the whole situation. But that's it for me.
Yeah, I do want to do an honorable mention with What's Culture. Because What's Culture kind of talks into how he went ham on everybody, but also it goes back to what I was getting ready to say a little bit ago before you talked about your third favorite, which is we can't be too quick to judge. Like, we know what the media shows us and we know what people say, but there's always so many different sides to the stories and so many different people that are involved and so many different perspectives. And yes, some people feel that there's two sides to every story because they feel that their story is the truth, but in all reality, that's your truth.
Yes.
You know, and everybody else has the right to tell their truth. And because he's mentioning also on the album that he can't really say a whole bunch, which I know you were saying, like, you kind of feel some type of way that you know, still don't feel like you know what happened, but he's saying, I have an open case, so I can't really speak on what actually happened. So we're getting music about what happened, or you know, like, I didn't do it and blah blah, and it's jacked up how my friends in this particular song, how my own friends and family and just people will be quick to judge and jump on what they're seeing in the media, and all these people are saying different things about a situation that you're not even a part of. Yeah. So I get how that can be frustrating, and whether he's involved in or not, we need to wait until we learn a little bit more, or no one's reached out. Like he was saying, people hadn't even reached out and contacted him. Yeah. But I think another thing that was dope in this particular song, you know, when we're talking about What's Culture, is he's saying, like, I don't want to be that guy that's out there known for, you know, beating up a woman or doing something to a woman, something violent to a woman. And started talking about, thinking about Chris and Rihanna again, because you were just talking about him. But I don't want to be that person out there that's listed out there and represented, you know, in such a way. I got black sisters. I got black women in my family. I got, you know, and I love all women of all shapes and sizes. Been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's amazing how he also tied in there, like, if your dude's going through something, it kind of ties into what, you know, Oprah said. So it's kind of fitting that was actually our news today, because he also mentioned, you know, there's trauma. We all have trauma. And also take your man to therapy, you know. And so there's some acknowledgement there, and it's admirable for me as well, because I feel like whether you're owning it fully, whether you're telling the truth or not, you're still owning certain parts of the feeling, or certain elements of it. You are owning, and you are acknowledging that I'm still imperfect, you know, and we all have room for growth. So I don't know. I say all of that to say we can't be too quick to judge, and I think that's it.
Yeah. All right, but with that being said, let's go ahead and give Mr. Lanez his grade for Daystar. Let's talk about his vocals.
All right, so for vocals, I came through with a 4.5.
Okay.
I think that I like Tory Lanez. He's grown on me probably in the past couple of years. I liked when he did a mixtape that had he referenced a whole bunch of songs from the past. Chris Brown, I know you mentioned he sounded like Chris Brown. He also sounded a lot like Chris Brown on The Tape, which was a song that was from Chris Brown's Take You Down song, and they both were in that song together, and it just I've learned to kind of love and respect his art and what he does. Even though he's maybe not my favorite vocalist, I can still hear he's doing some dope vocal stuff, whether it's covered up by effects and other things. You know, it's still, he's still vocally, he's going in. But I didn't just judge based off of like the singing vocals, I judged off of his rap.
For me, I gave him a 3.75. I thought it was solid. Some of his, like you said, some of the effects kind of made it hard to, I guess, really enjoy some of it. But I would say as a rapper, as you kind of mentioned, I thought he flowed immaculately, and I definitely became a fan of his somewhat, because I really couldn't tell him the difference between him and Bryson Tiller on a couple songs a couple years ago. So 3.75 for me.
All right, lyrics, I give a 4.5. I think his pen is definitely on point.
Yeah. Raps,
singing, all that different stuff, the play on words, the melodies, all types of stuff. I think the lyrics are dope.
Yeah, I also came through with a 4.5. I'm just going to mirror what you said. he definitely has a dope pen game and is able to really express his thoughts. And I think that that's great for any lyricist. So 4.5 from me.
4.5 also in production is what I gave. I think that, like I mentioned, how the vocals are sometimes pushed back, but they're still giving, you know, what they need to give. You feel them more than you hear them. But overall, the tracks, I think he fit in really well vocally with them, and everything. It's almost like he wrote the song and then put everything behind it, and it just was just perfect. I like it.
Yeah, not also, but I came through with a 4 for production. I felt like I definitely enjoyed some of the vocals being pushed back, as you mentioned. Musically, again, to be able to make an album about such a traumatic experience and make it all kind of sound different and have, you know, it's not like all somber songs. It's got some kind of upbeat, happy, whatever. Even some songs that sound like they could go in a club almost. So again, production, I gave a solid 4.
All right, Sonic Flow, I gave a 3. So I already kind of talked about the Sonic Flow thing. And the reason that I gave a 3 is kind of why I mentioned before, which was just the redundancy of talking about the situation that messed up the vibe for me throughout the album. I don't want to continue to hear about the situation. Make the songs, challenge yourself, make the songs more general so a lot of people can relate to them, because you're just pretty much, I like that you're telling your story, but you're telling it in every single song. So it was just a lot for me.
Yeah, and I think with all of the different songs, again, I understand the cases out there, but I wanted to hear a little bit more as a fan, and we waited this long to hear from him. Mm-hmm. But I also agree with you that I felt like it was definitely redundant. I feel like he could have done 1 or 2 songs about it and then done some more, covered some other topics. So I gave him a 3.5 for Sonic Flow.
All right, so overall, that gives him an average of 4.03.
Yes, sir.
Which gives him a percentage of 80.63%.
That's right.
Which gives him a grade of...
Drum roll, please! A B-.
And I think it's fitting.
I think it's fitting, too. I actually was going to go a little lower, but it's all right. We're going to stick with a B-. With that being said, we want to wrap this show up by saying I'm Camarray.
I'm Zaiah. Make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe to this video.
Yes, and share with everybody. Share with your mama, your grandmama, all of them.
Can't even get my...
Everybody.